Too Much Information is a production of iHeart Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Too Much Information, the show that brings you nothing. That's right. This week, you get nothing and you'll love it. You know, we're in the middle of a heat wave. Aliens are real. WGA, SAG is on strike.
I stubbed my toe.
Jordan stubbed his toe. We're trying something a little different this week. We're stealing a concept that a friend of the pod, David Long, introduced me to by way of Tim Heidecker's Cinema on Cinema show. Stump the Buff is the name of this bit. Jordan and I, it may come as no surprise to you, are trivia dorks. That's kind of the bit of the show.
Yeah, if you've listened to the prior 120 episodes.
Welcome to the pod. And so we are bringing that to bear with a live trivia show we are calling Stump the Buff. And for maximum patented TMI cognitive dissonance, the two topics that we have chosen are horror cinema and the Beatles. And I'll leave it up to you, the listeners, to figure out who's going to be answering those questions respectively. So welcome to Stump the Buff. Blood and Beatles, a TMI production, executive produced by no one. Jordan, you were a professional triviaist. Trivist? What's the... Trivist?
Loser, I think is our preferred term. Oh, yeah, I was, it was, my summer job all through college I was kind of the understudy to, he was actually my third grade vice principal, and we became friends years later when I was long out of the school district. He has incredible taste in music. Shouts to DJ JBJ. He was during the summer months, he just was such a passionate music fan that he DJ'd weddings and retirement parties and bar mitzvahs and all sorts of stuff in central Massachusetts. And he had a weekly standing gig at this pub in Clinton, Massachusetts called the Old Timer. And this place had been there for a million years. There's pictures of like Jack Kennedy going there and the campaign trail and stuff. And it was this Tuesday night tradition at this local pub. It was the most fun thing. And then whenever he couldn't do it, I filled in for him. And it was a blast. It was so funny because it was like sort of a dive, kind of. It wasn't the kind of place where you'd expect to hear like Gilbert and Sullivan and like all sorts of like really obscure music. Yeah, it was really fun. We'd play a music clue after we'd ask the question. And like, I don't know, if the answer was Daryl Strawberry, we'd play Incense and Peppermint by Strawberry Alarm Clock or something. And like try to, the more obscure, the better. So, yeah, and so this was really fun for me putting these questions together. I did my questions I grouped them by theme, which is
okay.
going to be annoyingly,
I didn't actually like put a list together or something. I have a couple of tabs open, so you know therein lies the difference in our dispositions. Yeah, I got a couple of tabs open. We'll see how this goes.
Well, let me ask you: are we keeping score, or is this a gentleman's game among friends?
You know, the burning competitor in me, who loves Thunderdome, is inclined to keep score, but also I don't care.
Yeah, you do. You say that now. In about 10 minutes, that's going to change.
Once the coffee kicks in, I'm going to be staring daggers at you through this Zoom meeting. All right, well, without further ado, let's get right into it. Jordan, as the gentleman between us, I'm going to let you go first.
That's great, because my first set of questions is actually subtitled First Things First.
Okay.
It's a series about horror movie firsts.
Off.
See, I put some forethought into this.
Yeah, I bet you did.
What you need when you're
son
a
of a
host.
bitch.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be easy.
It was.
For me.
For me. All right, your first question in the First Things First category. This is maybe debatable, so I'm more curious to hear what you have to say about this. What is widely considered to be the first horror movie ever made?
If memory...
It is very old.
Yeah, if memory serves, it's Méliès.
Ah.
but I don't remember the French. Do I have to do it in the original French?
No, absolutely
I
not.
think it's like Devil's House or the House of the Devil or something.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes.
The answer, well, it's a bit of a cheat because the
Wow.
answer almost any what is the first is Méliès, right?
Oh, fair.
I would also
1896. Wow.
did Thomas Edison's Frankenstein come up? Because that's a real interesting one too.
I did not check that. No.
Yeah,
But I do like all the stuff about how Edison would literally kill his opposition. Because isn't that a story about the other, not Méliès, but like one of the original developers of film in France, like mysteriously disappeared on a train or something?
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, he killed an elephant. He probably killed Tesla.
Well, who among us?
There, but for the grace of God. Edison did a silent treatment of Frankenstein, and it's actually like the first Frankenstein adaptation. That one's from 1910. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting early cinema stuff with this. All right. So,
Well, folks, we're going to be researching a lot of this on the fly.
don't tell them that.
Well, no, let me ask you. No, mine are all categories. I got to ask you all the.
Oh, you want to run a category? Okay.
I got to run a category.
Okay.
All right, my next question in the first things first category. This was the first American film to feature a toilet on film.
It's Psycho, right?
Whoa, yes. Wow,
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get you with that one. Nice. Also, I don't know why they shouted this out in the whatever listicle site I was looking at questions on. Also, the first U.S. film to show a toilet flushing.
Yeah, and there's a Beatles connection there too, because it was Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho that inspired Eleanor Rigby.
Wow. Oh,
I think it's in.
Thank you for that.
I think
Beatle
it's
fact.
in. Isn't it in Here, There, and Everywhere, the Jeff Emmerich memoir where he talks about to get that sound, he was close miking the strings down by the bridge, which is like it produces a very like a thin, dry, scratchy timbre on any bowed instrument. The closer you get to the anchor point of any stringed instrument, whether it's guitar or violin or whatever, the less room the string has to vibrate, right? So that's how you get this very tight, dry waveform sound on it. And it's not generally considered a good, quote unquote, good tone for a stringed instrument. So he talks about he would get real close down there and the string players would start backing away as they were recording Eleanor Rigby. I just love that.
Here's one just for you. I'm so glad that I have this question. What were the first words spoken in Predator?
Oh, fudge. Dave's going to kill me for this if I can't remember. I want to say Saigon, but it's not. That's the other tropical nightmare movie. Is it at the handshake moment? Is it when he says something, you son of a bitch?
Close. So, yes, close. You're
okay. What is it?
There.
What is it?
You're looking good, Dutch.
That's right. Oh man, who'd have thought that the humble Predator, the humble masterpiece Predator, would have given us the iconic meme of the jacked Caucasian and jacked black arms grasping has taken on such. I wonder if people really know that's where that came from.
All right, we've got, I think, 4 more on this category.
All right.
What was the first horror film to receive a Best Picture nomination at the Academy Awards?
Rosemary's Baby.
No.
No, I was wrong. Not Rosemary's Baby. What is Rosemary's Baby?
It's pretty, when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, of course.
I mean, The Birds? No, I don't know.
A little later, or actually a lot later.
Pass.
The Exorcist.
Oh, duh. Yeah, okay.
First of only...
I would have thought Rosemary's Baby would have. That's like...
maybe it was just too creepy, too weird.
It's weird. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Apparently it's the first of only 6 horror movies ever nominated for Best Picture, and to date, I believe Silence of the Lambs is the only one that has won that award. Which blockbuster film actor made his film debut in A Nightmare on Elm Street?
Oh, that's Johnny Depp.
Boom!
J Depps. Yeah, I love the early. There's so many of those, man. Paul Rudd is in the Halloween 6, pretty widely considered to be one of the worst ones. Jennifer Aniston is in Leprechaun. Adam Scott is in the 4th Hellraiser movie. You know, it's a lot of people's first roles because they're cheap and easy to make and easy roles to get a lot of the time. But yeah, Johnny Depp is the one who I think gets sucked into the fountain. He gets sucked into his bed and like a enormous anatomically incorrect geyser of blood erupts. All right, is that my category?
You have 2 more.
Okay.
This isn't really a first, but we'll let it slide. Who did Wes Craven originally want to play the lead role as Freddy Krueger?
Oh, David Warner.
Yes!
Yeah.
Who's best known to me from my beloved large boat movie Titanic as Billy Zane's valet who tries to shoot them, I believe. No, I guess he has a gun. He doesn't try to shoot
Yeah,
him.
he's one of
What
those.
the hell's his name?
He's one of those classic British character actors who's kind of just pops up all over the place, and you go, that guy.
Lovejoy. Lovejoy is his name.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was.
yes.
You know what I immediately thought
he
was
just died.
Telly Savalas, because you sent me that People magazine cover with Telly Savalas shirtless on the cover. And I was like, no, that's not right. Don't
Dripping
say
with
that.
gold necklaces. Okay, I lied to you mostly because I didn't want you to get mad. I have 2 more questions in this category, then I'm done. The Japanese film Ringu from 1998 was remade by director Gore Verbinski, who's famous for directing Pirates of the Caribbean, as The Ring 4 years later in 2002. In the original Ringu, how did Sadako's real mother meet her untimely end?
Oh, this is tough, man. I'm not a big J-horror guy. Fire. A horse kicked her. What is fire?
You are. Can I have more information, please?
What is house fire?
I'm sorry, we can't accept that.
Damn it!
She threw herself into a volcano.
What?
Threw herself into a volcano.
How do you even find one?
It's Japan.
There's not a.
It's an archipelago, isn't it?
Oh yeah, okay, all right, fine.
You know.
You know, God, that's commitment to the bit.
I mean, does this mean that you feel a pressing need to watch Ringu this weekend?
Maybe there's an interesting divide between what people consider like classic Japanese horror and then what people consider J horror, which I didn't really know.
Oh, wow.
Because there's the sort of first period of Japanese horror, which has stuff like Kwaidan and Onibaba, is influenced by like traditional Japanese ghost stories and like folk tales, and there's a term for them that I'm forgetting, but so it's almost like they were just it's not almost, it is like they were just taking stuff that was passed down through their oral history, and that's where you get like a lot of these stereotypes like the hungry ghost and like different demons and like all that stuff, and then in the 90s you get this wave of what they call J horror, which is like a lot of the stuff that made it over here, like The Ring and The Grudge and The Eye starring Jessica Alba, and that is considered a genre distinct from that first wave of Japanese horror. Adjust glasses.
Whatever happened to Jessica Alba?
She's like a billionaire off of her like GMO free health crap, like her line of garbage.
Does she still like act?
No, because she's like, it's called the Honest Company or something.
Yeah, Honest Company.
There was some kind of lawsuit with it recently.
Wow, you're right. She barely acts. Her most recent movie doesn't have a Wikipedia page. She was in the secret role of Alex Mack for 3 episodes, though. I didn't know that.
She was in Dark Angel. That's the first place I saw her. And Idle Hands, speaking of horror movies, starring Devon Sawa, Seth Green, and the rest. Yeah, they were sued. She was sued in 2016 for her stuff had a lot of stuff that was marketed as not having in it. Yeah, anyway, good for her.
And your final question for the first things first category. Which horror movie led to the implementation of the MPAA's PG-13 rating?
Oh, it's Jaws, right?
I feel like we've talked about this on here too. No.
Was it Exorcist again?
There were two.
Well,
There's
Jaws,
generally accepted that there are two.
Jaws, Temple of Doom. Oh, and Gremlins.
Yes, Gremlins and Temple of Doom.
Yeah. I thought Jaws was in there too, but fine. I still got that right. I'm counting that for me. All right. I'm going to loosely call this
I don't care.
beginning tools. Beginning tools. Yeah, we'll do firsts. We'll do like a loose kind of firsts category. So everyone knows that John Lennon's first band was called the Quarrymen. But where did that name come from?
His primary school, Corey Bank.
Too easy. Okay. All right. So I'm okay. So everyone knows John Lennon and Paul McCartney met at a church party.
Yeah, I've been there. A fete is how they call it. It's a British phrase. The fete. I've been to the church, the Woolton Village fete.
So what song did Paul McCartney play for John Lennon to impress him?
20 Flight Rock by Eddie Cochran, excuse me, who was an early rock and roll hero in kind of that first wave with Buddy Holly and Little Richard and Elvis and all
Summertime
that.
Blues, right?
And Summertime Blues, yeah, great. I think he did a version of Blue Suede Shoes too. And he died in a car accident in 1961 in England on his tour of England. I think it was before some of the I think George might have seen him perform, but I think Paul didn't, and he was always like sad about it. And the person driving the car, I think was named coincidentally George Martin, who is the name of the Beatles producer. I believe so. There was a George Martin, no relation to the famous George Martin, involved in the car accident.
George Martin,
but yeah, the funny
relation.
no relation. But yeah, Paul, he always tells the story about how when he saw John playing on stage, John was singing the Del Viking song, Come and Go With Me, which is an old kind of doo-wop-y song. And John didn't know the words, so he would make them up on the spot by pulling in things that he'd heard off of like old blues records by Big Bill Brunzi. So the lyrics to the song, they're supposed to be, come, come, baby, come and go with me. Something about going beyond the sea. I don't know him either. John would say, come, come, go with me down to the penitentiary, which is a much cooler lyric.
It is.
But it was something that he'd pulled off of these blues records. And Paul recognized that. And he thought, oh, that's funny. That's pretty cool. And so he went around back after their gig because they had a mutual friend that introduced them. And Paul, in a pretty great power move, borrowed John's guitar. Paul's left-handed. He flips this right-handed guitar upside down. He plays it upside down. He plays 20 Flight Rock by Eddie Cochran. And he knew all the words, which was like a huge deal for John, because that song, for anyone who knows, it has a lot of words. It goes a mile a minute. So that I think he also tuned John's guitar too, because John had only learned how to tune it off of old banjo tunings from his mother.
Right.
So Paul was like, what do you no, like, and he tuned it normally. So yeah, he made a big impact on John, the fact that he could play this guitar upside down, tune it, and was really good with words, and he sounded like Paul McCartney. So yeah, that was their first meeting.
So I'm gonna have to
Turn up the heat.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust on the fly here. What is the first book of poetry published by John Lennon called?
In His Own Right, WRITE. Oh, wait a minute. Published or that he made?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
When he was a kid, he had his own little like handwritten newspaper that he called the Daily Howl that he used to just distribute to classmates at school with just like weird little, goofy cartoons and stuff. So there was that, but that was never published. But In His Own Right, WRITE, was published.
Yeah, no, I'm not counting the zine, the proto zine that he made. Do you own a copy? Have you read it?
I do. It's he's very into Lewis Carroll. So it's kind of has this like Jabberwocky, a lot of puns and kind of nonsense stuff. I always liked his drawings, his pen and ink drawings. He was really into like James Thurber and Ronald Searle. And it kind of actually it looks a lot like a lot of the Roald Dahl illustrations. They're very funny. He actually had briefly in the 60s collaborated with, I don't know if it was Hallmark or what, but he had a line of greeting cards for a brief period that were based on his sketches of like grotesquely overweight people and people with like two noses and birds. And yeah, he was, his drawings are interesting. Look them up if you haven't seen them.
Interesting. Okay, so a two-parter question, because the first one is too easy. Part A is too easy, and that is, which is the first song recorded, period, to include purposeful distortion?
I Feel Fine.
Now, follow-up question: which string of the guitar produced? Son of a bitch!
So yeah, the story with that was they were, I mean, the Beatles 1964 single "I Feel Fine." It opens with that wow, which is a cool sound. That was an accident, according to lore. I forget if it was John or George. One of them lay their acoustic electric Gibson jumbo guitars down, and we're going to go up into the studio control room and go listen to a playback or something. And all of a sudden, I guess, you lay the guitar down, and just the vibration from it banging against what you just laid it against set one of the strings going. And it just started feeding back, and it's a cool sound.
Yeah.
Like it was
John.
It was John, yeah. And I know John was the one who was like, because he was really into weird sounds.
Yes.
Like the first reverse tape on "I'm Only Sleeping" was his idea. He liked doing those kind of weird, quirky sonic effects. So he was like, "Oh my God, that sounds great. Can we put that on the front?" And that's what they did.
How many was that? See, this is the thing. I'm not even keeping track.
It's either 3 or 4. I think it's 3. I think it was 4.
Okay. Trying to find harder ones.
Oh no.
Yeah.
To quote Prince, "I can't be played.
Yeah.
Anyone who tries to play me plays themselves."
I got a lot of hits. Some of these are dubious. Like, I just found a source that claimed the Beatles were the first band to use a drum riser. Can you verify that?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I have to think it's.
That can't be. No,
I have to think it's some kind of a big band. Okay. One dubious claim that I've found here that you may be in the position to shoot down is that the Beatles were the first rock band to perform at a classical venue. What was that classical venue?
I think it was Carnegie Hall. Oh, I know it was Carnegie Hall. I don't know. I've heard that too. I guess rock versus, because I know Joan Baez performed there.
Sure. That is not the answer I'm seeing here, though.
Is it in America or
no?
Okay. It's not the Royal Albert Hall.
I guess Carnegie Hall counts. Okay, so this answer is wrong because Carnegie Hall.
What country? Tell me what country.
The answer I'm seeing here is Nippon Budokan Hall in Tokyo.
Oh, that wasn't a classical venue. That was a wrestling. Arena.
Okay.
And they got into a lot of trouble because it was supposed to be reserved for martial arts, and they were the first Western pop act to perform there. And a lot of the elders in Japan were out in the street demonstrating. I mean, there's footage of these old Japanese men with big banners that said "Beatles go home."
Hell yeah.
And it was a big controversy. Yeah.
Okay. So, who was the first Beatle to do acid?
Trick question. It was John and George. They went to a dinner party for their dentist, or at their dentist's house. Which, do you have that kind of relationship with your dentist?
I sure don't.
Yeah, I never really understood that, but I guess he was like the kind of dentist to the stars. And they went to dinner, and then they brought their wives, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna go now. We're gonna go to a club." I think a friend of theirs was like opening at one of the local clubs or something, and we were going to go see his band. And then he was like, "Oh no," the dentist was like, "Oh no, don't leave yet. You haven't had your coffee." And so he served them coffee with sugar cubes. And then after a little while, he told John and George and their wives, "I advise you not to leave. You've just had acid." And they were dosed without their knowledge. And years later, they speculated that this dentist didn't really know what it was. He thought it was maybe an aphrodisiac, and he was trying to get an orgy happening in his house. And because I think that this dentist girlfriend who was there was like a Playboy playmate or something, and they all suspected that he had these like really seedy ulterior motives. And it really obviously deeply creeped them out, and they like left. And they didn't really know. I mean, they were dimly aware of LSD, but they went to this club, and John always remembered that like they went into this elevator because the club was up a building, and like in the elevator, it felt like they were in like an elevator going down to hell, and like the little red light went on when they hit the floor, and he thought the elevator was on fire, and they were all screaming, and it was this horrible night. And then George is like driving home at the end of the night on acid, thinking that he's like driving like a big submarine or something. And he said, I was driving 22 miles an hour the whole time. For some reason, I really remember that. I was afraid to go any faster. I was like,
I can't believe people used to do that in the 60s, man. I was just reading this thing about Carlos Santana talking about being extremely on mescaline for his Woodstock performance. And in the interview, he talks about the Dead man. And
I interviewed him about this, and he told me, it was like, yeah, I thought my guitar was a snake. And I was like, but like,
right.
You could see it in his face, like the look of like fear when he's like looking at this thing.
Well, when they talk about, he talked about the Dead, playing with the Dead in San Francisco, and he was like, and at this point I knew they were famous for dosing people, so I made sure to carefully wipe down my can. But what I didn't realize was that they had figured out how to use syringes.
Jesus, would they sneak up behind him and just jab him?
No, into the can before it could even be opened.
Well, why? I don't understand that. Like, this the whole Merry Pranksters attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess they thought it was like good for people, but Jesus.
It's horrifying. That's too easy.
Sorry, I know this is no fun.
Well, I think like once this, it's just because I'm trying to do firsts now.
Okay. Oh, don't worry about that.
Who sponsored the Beatles' first professional tour in Scotland?
Wow. They were backing a teen artist named Johnny Gentle.
Correct.
And the guy who was sort of his manager was this guy Larry Parnes. And this guy Larry Parnes, he had a whole stable of like Elvis clones, British Elvis clones, and he gave them all these very tempestuous names. There was Billy Fury and Marty Wilde, and they had all these like really rough and ready names. And the Beatles got stuck with Johnny Gentle. Remember, they were always like, oh, slight disappointment in the name department there.
Yeah, it was Larry Parnes. That was correct.
I know. I'm trying to drag it out. It's no fun. When I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, they were like, try to just give the answer right away. Try to just like make it like, add some drama.
Yeah. Okay. Who was the first drummer of the Quarrymen?
Oh, this is when I'm bad with these kinds of questions. His name was on the drum. It was like Colin something.
Correct. I mean, I'm not going to give that
Felton
to you.
Or something.
No, I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
It's
no,
Colin
I wouldn't
Hanton.
give it to you either.
Colin Hanton.
Yeah, I said Colin Felton,
yes.
By the way.
Yes.
I just...
Incorrect.
No, I have no amusing anecdotes about him.
Can't give it to you. He is still alive.
Yeah.
Still gigging. Plays for a reformed version of the Quarrymen. That sounds awful. Is that enough?
I think that's it. I think that's it. Okay, so I have 7 out of 8.
All right, so 5 out of 8.
Oh, so 7 out of 8. Okay. This next category, I think you're either going to sweep this or be like, I have no idea. Taglines.
Oh.
I give you the tagline. You give me the movie.
Okay.
Now, I want to preface this. My knowledge of horror is so limited that my ability to judge difficulty is a little off. So apologies in advance. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. There's only 6. Okay. Your first one. This is great. Please do not disturb Evelyn. She already is.
Oh man. Now I just want to be like, who is the Evelyn? Who is the classic Evelyn in a horror film?
I will give it the year,
Okay, please.
1983.
83. I was gonna guess like a 60s one. 83 has got to be like a slasher thing. I want to say it's
Judging from the title, that seems right.
I've seen the poster. It's not Motel Hell. No, because
Getting there.
yeah.
Getting there.
Is it Motel Massacre?
I will give that to you. It's Mountaintop Motel Massacre.
Son of a bitch. I was so close.
Guests in a mountain lodge owned by a demented old woman are dispatched one by one. She uses everything from a sickle to cockroaches to murder her helpless guests.
Hell yeah. Good for her.
I'll give you that.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Next one. These are all very good. A horror film with guts.
Horror film with guts.
I will give you the year if you want.
Yeah.
89.
These are hard because this requires you
I'm
to
sorry.
know. No. It's good, but this requires you to know like posters. Man.
Some of them you can kind of reverse engineer. I think that's the hardest one.
A horror film with guts. 1989.
Do you want actors and actresses?
Yeah.
Robert Sabin, Ava Lee.
That's not helpful at all. I don't know. You got me. You stumped the buff.
Slime City.
Slime City.
A student moving into a trashy New York apartment complex meets a prostitute. She curses him to turn into a homicidal monster. This happens whenever he consumes dairy products like yogurt, which slowly liquefies him.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny because, okay, so my tangent here is is that there is a subgenre of horror films called melt films or slime films. It's just as gross as it sounds.
Yeah.
Probably the most famous is The Blob, but you would also call The Stuff might be included in there.
The Stuff?
The Stuff, yeah, that's a Larry Cohen film. Larry Cohen is like a real garbage human, king of like New York exploitation films. And The Stuff is it's basically The Blob if The Blob was like an edible consumer good that people were eating and it was driving them evil. But the most famous, probably the most famous melt horror is a film called Street Trash, which has some of the most unbelievably disgusting, awful, but also like cartoonish because everything's like neon, body melting effects and scenes that ever committed to screen. And it is notable for being set in or filmed partially in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a batch of tainted liquor causes the homeless population to begin melting in disgusting ways. It is also notable for a film in which a gang of the unhoused play keep away with another man's severed penis.
They're really not pulling any punches with that, are they?
No, sure not. Sure,
This is the post-subtlety movement in film.
I think that was one of the ones that was included in the British video nasties era.
Yeah.
All right, next tagline.
All right, this one's a little easier. I think it's the easiest tagline on here.
Thank God.
Which horror film's tagline is "We dare you to say his name 5 times"?
Oh, it's Candyman.
Boom.
Yeah, thank
There it
God.
is. Not starring Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, did you ever have that as a kid? Like, I had like the Bloody
You look
Mary
into the
thing.
mirror and
No, Bloody Mary was ours. Did you have
was
like a
that?
regional Boston variant of that? The whole like say the name in the mirror in the dark bathroom 5 times.
that sounds familiar. I feel like it was like it wasn't Slender Man because that's a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
I was like I feel like it was like
Yours
something
was like-
Man though.
like Larry Bird in Boston, right? or Whitey
Appleseed.
Bulger. Whitey Bulger. All right.
It has 9 lives. You only have 1.
Well, obviously it's a cat themed one. So there's a couple that this could be. Can I get the year?
88.
88.
And it stars, or features at least, one of your favorites.
Oh, it's The Uninvited.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. What just gave it away? George Kennedy?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That's a classic. That's a classic. Because the other one could have been there's Sleepwalkers, which is a weird one. I think that's 1990. It's a Stephen King adaptation that has like pseudo cat that's like very cat themed. There's a cat short one in yeah, but The Uninvited is a classic. Not just for cats, being a cat being the monster, but that it's set on a yacht.
Yeah. The blurb I saw was, a gangster invites a group of people for a cruise on his yacht. A mutant feline escapes from a science lab and attacks the passengers.
Hell yeah.
And that's it. Just,
it sure does.
Hilarity ensues. Your next one. This tagline is, a vision of beauty made in hell.
Interesting.
It looks good, whatever it is. I've never heard about this. The lead character shares a name with a former presidential candidate.
Ronald Reagan.
I don't think it was intentional. It's a pretty generic name.
Can I get the year?
88.
If it's 88, I'm going to guess that's putting it in the maybe era of stuff that was ripping off Reanimator.
Yeah.
So it's
getting close.
It's some kind of Frankenstein or like respawning situation. It's resurrection themed. It's not the resurrection. It's not resurrected. It's
You're so close. You're so close.
Swing. The Resurrector.
Beauty. Think of Beauty.
Monica Bellucci.
Think Wasp Woman without the wasp.
Oh, the Rejuvenator?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Wasp Woman is a classic because that's about a makeup executive. And that's considered a pretty groundbreaking film as far as because it's about a woman makeup executive. And like it's considered a pretty proto-feminist horror film for having this film that explores like what it's like to A, be a woman in business, and B, be like aging and themes of like beauty and stuff. So that's interesting. I can't believe I got Rejuvenator.
An actress, due to her age, hires a scientist working on an elixir for everlasting beauty. This elixir has dangerous side effects. Besides utilizing fluids from a human brain, it turns into a ferocious beast. Vivian Lank portrays Elizabeth Warren, an aging actress, and the creature. John McKay plays the scientist.
Yeah, some of these are extremely obscure. But go ahead, keep going.
All right, your final one. The tagline is, it's not human, and it's got an axe.
Can I get the year?
84. Oh, it stars, or at least features, somebody that we've discussed.
Oh, come on. We've done 100 plus episodes of this show.
In this calendar year. A former child star.
I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. I sued my own mother.
Oh, okay. Well, that's obviously Jackie Coogan.
Yeah.
But what horror movie did Jackie Coogan star in 1983?
4.
I don't know, man. I pass.
The Prey.
I don't know that one.
Does that mean anything? A group of campers fall victim to an inhuman, mutilated man whose motive is affection. Oh. He uses an axe to cut into his victims. The film is set in the forest at night.
But it just said a human mutilated man, and the tagline is it's not human. I'd like to contest that one.
An inhuman mutilated man.
Inhuman. Oh, okay.
I don't know what makes him inhuman. This is my lack of knowledge of horror really gets me in
his
trouble.
lust for violence, presumably.
Yeah.
As you meditate on that, we'll be right back with more Too Much Information after these messages. Okay. All right. All right. So back to you.
5 out of 6.
5 out. Okay. So I'm getting my ass whipped here. I'm gonna
Just give me anything. Give me anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop theming them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop theming them. For what crime was Paul McCartney deported from Germany?
Arsons. He set fire to a condom. He was
That is correct.
He was working for I feel like that answer requires a bit of an explanation. I'll try to keep it short.
Please.
They were leaving the club that they had been booked to perform in Germany, which was a real dive called the Kaiser Keller. And the guy who ran the club housed the band in these 2 tiny, like, cinder block rooms behind a movie theater in, like, a back alleyway. No windows. I think they had, like, mattresses with, like, Union Jacks or British flags as, like, sheets, which seems like a veiled, like, FU after World War II. And they didn't even have a bathroom. It was behind a movie theater. It was in the back of a movie theater, and they just used the movie theater toilet stalls. And it was just this really horrendous place. So they ended up getting booked into another club, a better club, and they were moving over to this other place. And it had been a little testy with the owner of the initial club because he wasn't real happy that they were deserting him to his competitor. And so things were getting a little weird between him and Paul, just as like a joke. I don't really understand why you would think to do this, but nail a condom to a wall and lit it on fire just so it left a little like scorch mark on the wall. Totally concrete room. Nothing could have caught fire at all. But this guy wasn't pleased that they were leaving anyway. So he sicked the Hamburg police on them. And it was him and Pete Best, actually, the Beatles' original drummer, were thrown into a German jail. First time in jail, which terrified them. And
I can imagine.
They were deported, sent back to Liverpool. And then George was deported, too, for being underage. The club owner that they'd initially been with was happy to turn a blind eye to him when they were working for him, but now they're going somewhere else. It was like, oh, yeah, this kid's like 17, and they had like a curfew in the post-World War II. Very strict curfew for anyone under the age of 18 being out after a certain time. And George was flouting curfew, and so he was deported. Didn't have a work permit or a visa or anything.
I was going to make some kind of anti-immigrant joke there. Really trying to court the red states. Across the Universe was originally on a fundraising album for the World Wildlife Fund. Which label released it?
Oh, wow. You might have me there. It was...
Thank God.
It was the British comedian Spike Milligan, who worked a lot with... He was one of the Goons, on the Goon Show, the famous radio show with Peter Sellers, who would go on to be in the Pink Panther and all the Stanley Kubrick movies and stuff. The Beatles worshipped those comedians, the Goons, and George Martin had produced them, actually, done a lot of their comedy records. So I don't know why or how, but Spike Milligan crossed their path and asked them to contribute something to this World Wildlife album that he was doing as a fundraiser, and they kicked in Across the Universe. I don't know. I have no idea.
Starline. Regal Starline.
Still have no idea. Wow.
Yeah. A division of EMI. They were merger between Columbia and the Gramophone Company. Label was known for its releases of Salvation Army brass band music.
Jesus.
So
that's the first one I missed. Oh no, I missed.
And here you go. This is a tough one for a normal person. They are the same label that originally released which 1977 album by Paul McCartney released under a pseudonym?
Percy Thrills Thrillington.
Correct.
Which is the orchestral version of Ram, 1971's Ram, which is my favorite Paul McCartney album. It was basically an in-joke with himself. While recording or after having finished Ram, he hired an entire orchestra to do an instrumental version of it, had it all arranged, and then he sat on it for 6 years, and then he started taking ads out in like the local music papers, putting in like like in like society columns, being like Percy. He gave this guy his fictional alter ego, very Sergeant Peppery, Percy Thrillington, this whole backstory of how he I forget, but he took all these little society column blurbs out to give this fictitious orchestra leader a whole backstory, and then released it, and then for I think decades pretended that he had nothing to do with it. So it was this extremely costly, not very funny joke that Paul McCartney had with himself.
Okay, ping-ponging around. Actually, no. Let's do a better one, or a more appropriate one. Who was the tailor who designed 3 of the suits on the cover of Abbey Road?
Oh, that's good. I want to say Dougie Millings, but I think he did the earlier, the famous Beatles suits that you think of when they're all dressed identically in a Hard Day's Night era. Something like John Critton, maybe?
Nope, I'm sorry, that's incorrect.
I don't know.
Famous Savile Row tailor, Tommy Nutter.
Oh, I've heard that name. Yeah, Savile Row, which is where the Beatles had their Apple Records headquarters, and they performed on the roof, which we saw in the Get Back documentary. Savile Row was, prior to their arrival, just tailor central. It was all just these really high-end tailors. A lot of them are still there, and it's so funny. You go into these oak-paneled, looks like something from the Titanic, these really old-school tailor shops, at least 15 years ago when I was there, and they have horse saddles that you can sit on so that when they're tailoring your suits, it looks good when you're fox hunting or something. These dressage outfits. It's really funny.
So speaking of Abbey Road and Apple Corps, everyone knows that Yannis Alexis Martis, also known as Magic Alex, was a Greek electronics engineer who lost Apple at least 300,000 pounds with his bullshit schemes.
Yes.
What was the device that got John Lennon to hire him?
Oh, man. I don't know if there was one. I know that he would do things like convince John and George to give their very powerful motors from George's Ferrari and John's, one of his sports cars, that he was going to build them a flying saucer that he never did. There was paint that was going to change colors or act as a force field. He had, oh my God, he had all sorts of these insane ideas that there's this great bit in the Beatles anthology documentary where he was he thought he could build us a studio, and all he ever really did was he thought he would claim that he was on the cutting edge of technology, and all he did was build a toilet with a radio in it or something. It was something with a force field. That was
close.
There was a paint job that you could paint your car, and the faster you went, the car would change colors. That was one idea. There was wallpaper that was speakers. Yeah, I think was another one. Yeah.
Oh, actually, so this question is actually a complete canard. Apparently, according to according to the Daily Beetle, the answer that I found was the Nothing Box, which was just
he didn't make that.
Yeah. Okay, that is correct.
The Nothing Box was a metal box about the size of a foot square. It was a cube. And it had 8 lights, 2 rows of 4 on the front, and they would just flash red and green at completely random intervals. And it was just John thought it was the perfect stoner tool item. And he was just so taken with this. I mean, that was very John. He loved anything that was completely useless like that. And he thought it was funny. And he bought a bunch of them as gifts for his friends for Christmas 65, I feel like. And I don't think he made that, though. I don't think Magic Alex made that.
Okay, so how about this one? Let me pivot. We'll erase the Nothing Box question. What was the lone Beatles song that Magic Alex was nearly credited as a songwriter on?
Ooh, that's good. Baby, You're a Rich Man, maybe?
No, but it was supposedly supposed to be on White Album.
It was supposed to be on the White Album.
Yeah. It is it later surfaced on Anthology 3.
Okay. Well, What's the New Mary Jane?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
In a 1969 interview with NME, Lennon credited Magic Alex with writing half the song, although this credit was later revoked without explanation.
Yeah, for anyone who's not so deeply into Beatle nerdery that they've listened through all 6 discs of the Beatles anthology set, it's this like it's almost like Revolution number 9 level, like tape loops and music concrete, and it's kind of unlistenable. Yeah, it's not. Did you know
Good.
the song? It's not good.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. How many was that?
I don't know. I don't know how many of these you ask them, and then you're like, oh wait, maybe not. So I don't know how many of these you're
because I'm
counting.
doing this live.
I think we'll say one more. I feel like I got one wrong in there.
Okay. Which of these was not an actual 1960s novelty record?
Ooh, that's a great question already. I'm
Okay.
because they're all so outrageous. Cher did one under the name, I think Brenda or Barbara Mason, or Barbara Joe Mason or something. Ringo, I Love You. I think it was like one of her first or one of her earliest like featured vocal roles. But anyway, go on.
So I'm going to name 4, and you're going to tell me which is the fake. Spot the fake.
Okay.
What's Wrong with Ringo by the Bonbons. Stamp Out the Beatles by the High Riders. The Beatle Bounce by Bobby Comstock and the Counts. And Boom Boom Beatles by the Rocketeers.
Wow. I'm going to say Stamp Out the Beatles because there is a sweatshirt or a t-shirt that the Beatles themselves took to wearing around Sgt. Pepper era that was clearly something that somebody gave to him that some reactionaries in America had made that said Stamp Out the Beatles and with a foot and a little beetle under it. So I'm guessing that seems, if I was making up a fake answer or a fake, a fake Beatles song, I would probably pick that. So I'm going to say that.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. The correct
Wow.
you were correct about the sweatshirt, obviously, but the correct answer was Boom Boom Beatles by the Rocketeers, which is not a real song. Stamp Out the Beatles by the High Riders is a real song. Let's listen to a part of it now.
Yeah, I've never heard it.
A Detroit band, apparently. The High Riders, 1964.
Oh, it's good.
Ooh, it sounds like everything else from this era.
Liverpool, Liverpool. A group came from Liverpool with long shaggy hair. Stamp out the Beatles, and all around town they were known everywhere. Stamp out the Beatles, we're gonna stamp them out, mash them in the ground, whip them real good and put them down. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh. Stamp out the
Wow,
Beatles.
that is
But they don't
weirdly,
say why.
weirdly violent also.
Yeah.
Whip them real good. That's up. All right.
Oh.
Okay, we'll call that
Good
one.
question.
Yeah.
All right. Well, your next category in the horror department is what's in a name? I'm going to ask you for the name of various things from horror movies. Your first one, we're going to start easy. What was Freddy Krueger's serial killer nickname before he died?
Ooh, I don't know that
It wasn't used specifically until 2003's Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, God, that's a great movie.
It is alliterative.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of the name of the town because that's what it is.
Yeah.
The Springwood Slasher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
I always confuse it with. I always want to say it's Springfield because of The Simpsons,
Yeah.
but it is not. In the 6th one, they visit Springwood, the awful movie, Freddy's Dead, and Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold have cameos in that scene, which is a deeply bizarre. Starring, and let's bring it back to Titanic, Freddy's Dead stars Billy Zane's sister. You were nodding like you were like, yes, of
Oh, I
course.
thought it was
And then
Billy Zane. I thought,
No, Billy Zane's sister.
was Billy Zane ever in a horror movie?
Probably.
I know he was in The Phantom.
Yeah. Well, certain things about the Phantom are horrifying.
Well, while we're on the Freddy Krueger category, Where did Wes Craven get the idea for the name Freddy Krueger?
So I know that the origins of Nightmare on Elm Street are from a couple of things. Now I'm doing the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing, where you just like talk through your entire
Is this apocryphal? It might be
process.
apocryphal.
Well, so the concept of it came from this series of articles about the Filipino or Tagalog community in LA who were plagued by recurring nightmares and actually died in their sleep. So that terrified him. And then he also famously talked about the look of the sweater and the hat came from like a homeless guy that was like walking through his neighborhood and like stared at him through his window as a kid. But the name,
I worry this may be apocryphal, but
can I get a hint?
you are on the right track with him remembering that person that he saw as a kid.
Was it like his school janitor or someone figure from his school, his youth?
Not janitor.
I'm going to go ahead and say a bully then, a classmate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
School bully named Fred Krueger.
It's a good name. It's good.
It is a good name.
Mouth sound.
Good, strong name.
Good, strong Aryan name.
What is the name of the spacecraft the crew is aboard in Alien?
Oh, the Nostromo.
Yes.
Yes. I have the hat that
No
not
way.
not the hat, but I have the hat that a repo of the hat that Harry Dean Stan's wearing in the movie. It has the logo of the ship on it. Yes, I believe it was mining or transport ship from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, and commonly confused with the USS Sulaco, which is the military ship piloted by the Space Marines in Aliens.
What year does Alien take place?
Oh, that's a good question. I think
that's from me. That's not a.
I don't know. Let's just find this out live. 2122.
Oh, okay.
Supposedly. Maybe? I don't know. Jesus. 2122. According to the novelization of the film. Yes. So happy the novelization came back. Okay. So that might be apocryphal. That might not be canon. All right. What do we got?
All right. What is the name of the killer who possesses the doll that becomes Chucky in Child's Play? Gonna need first and last names.
Oh man, a classic Brad Dourif role. One of my favorites. That killer's name is one of the like Manson-esque combinations of
It's a triple. They're all triple. Lee Harvey Oswald, Mark David Chapman.
Yeah, triples make it.
Hinckley
Triples
didn't
make
get
it safe. The killer's name is Charles Lee Ray.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to James Earl Ray and Lee Harvey Oswald and Charles Manson. Is that what that was?
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and man, what a classic Dourif performance as him. Just doing Danny DeVito, essentially. Oh man, Child's Play is great.
All right, that was easy. This one.
When Jessica Walter died, I interviewed Tom Holland for the Post, the director of Child's Play, about it. And because she was originally the voice of Chucky, and she did like a whole day of recording on it, and I think she might have done the whole movie, or at least enough of it to get into test screenings. And because she had just done Play Misty for me, and Tom Holland, director Tom Holland, not Spider-Man actor Tom Holland, saw her in that and cast her in Child's Play as the voice of Chucky, and they did it, and then went into test screenings, and it came back. He just said it came back not good, so they replaced her with Brad Dourif.
That's cold.
Yeah.
All right, this one's a little tougher, I think. Although, I don't know. There's so much lore on this movie. Maybe it's not. What was Halloween originally going to be called?
Babysitter Murders.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think they were looking for a title for it and they were like gobsmacked that Halloween hadn't been taken. And one of the reasons that Friday the 13th sucks so bad is that I hate Friday the 13th. I think Jason is like cool, but as a movie franchise, it's hot ass. And I hate it specifically because the director, Sean Cunningham, of the first one was like a porn director, and Halloween was like this enormous financial success. It was like this crazy, I think for a time it was the most successful independent film of all time. And he was like from porn was like, oh, I'm gonna get in on that. What other holiday can I do? And he was like, again, gobsmacked that Friday the 13th hadn't been taken, and just took out a full-page ad in the trades touting this movie, Friday the 13th, that hadn't been made or written yet. And was just like in Variety and like, you know, Deadline or whatever, all the trades was like Friday the 13th, a new vision in horror or whatever. And a bunch of distributors were immediately like called the production offices and were like, oh, get me Friday the 13th. And he was like, well, shit, I guess I got to make a movie now. So,
well, dovetailing with that, I trust you more than these random listicles I found, but what was almost the title of Friday the 13th?
Having said that, I have no idea.
What I've seen is Long Night at Camp Blood.
Maybe.
We could disqualify that.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
All right, disqualified. On the topic of camps, in the cult classic Sleepaway Camp from 1983, what's the name of the camp the kids attend?
Ooh, that's a good one. Famously transphobic film Sleepaway Camp. You know, obviously the famous one is Crystal Lake in Friday the 13th. Camp, it's like
Camp Onawana.
I was just about to say it's like a Native American thing. Camp Arawak. Camp Arawak.
Yes. Nicely done. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 more. Unstated in the movie. What's the name? So, you know, go yourself. What is the name of the demon that possesses Reagan McNeil in The Exorcist?
Oh, Pazuzu.
How the did you know that?
Oh, that's a classic. In fact, when I was at People, one of the few crime stories I worked on was this horrifying thing down in like North Carolina or something, where this guy was like he called himself Pazuzu.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have asked this when we were on the alien train. What is the name of the planet where the crew discovered the alien eggs in Alien?
Oh, is it? It's a number. It's like a number combination, right? It's LV because people celebrate it every year in April. It's LV 426.
Yes, nicely done.
Yeah, because 426 is Alien Day in some circles. But there's a lot because there's different. They do the same designation in like different movies. Yeah.
All right, I like this one. This one might be a little too niche. What is the name of the book that Ash puts on top of the garbage can to trap his severed hand?
A Farewell to Arms.
Yes.
Because it's right after he cuts off his own arm.
Yes. Nice. Okay.
I just rewatched all the Evil Deads because the new one just came out. Funny on the topic of 80s horror movies referencing classic literature. One of the few good Friday the 13th movies is I think it's New Blood or New Beginning. Friday the 14th Part 6. And there's a random shot in that film. This is the one that I like because it's got a kind of a sly sense of humor. One of the kids at camp, this little 9-year-old girl, they like pan over them as they're like going to sleep at night, and the girl is reading Jean-Paul Sartre's No Exit, which is such a deeply bizarre thing to throw into like a couple frames of film. So that's the best Friday the 13th in my opinion, solely for that bit.
All right, 2 more. In Clive Barker's original novel, The Hellbound Heart, what is Pinhead's real name?
I don't think he has a proper name. Isn't his title the Hell Priest?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Also a fun fact, they tried to give him the original makeup in that movie was they tried to give him actual pins and they weren't showing up on film. So they had to re-sculpt them as like actual nails. But yeah, Clive Barker famously he thinks that name is not dignified enough for his Hell Priest.
Okay, and your last question for a clean sweep of this category. What is the name of the giant zombie-proof vehicle in Land of the Dead?
Oh, damn. Not one of my favorite Romeros, actually. I don't know it. I'm not gonna get this. All I know is I think like the lead zombie in that is this big. I think they call him like Big Daddy or something. No, I have no idea what the name of the vehicle is. What is it?
Well, you know what? I miscounted. This is actually number 11 of this category. I thought it was just a clean 10. So we're gonna call this just a bonus one.
Okay.
We're gonna say you sweeped it with 10. The name of the giant zombie-proof vehicle in Land of the Dead is Dead Reckoning.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Dead Reckoning.
So we're gonna call that a perfect score. That's 10.
I'm creeping back.
All right.
Creeping back. Okay. John Lennon played lead guitar on 3 out of these 4 songs.
Okay.
Which is the odd one out?
Mm-hmm.
Honey Pie, Get Back, You Can't Do That, and Bad Boy.
Wow. Okay, so Honey Pie, you can hear Paul kind of call off to John in the middle of the solo, and John kind of reacts to playing it. So that's definitely one. Get Back is another one, because he would later say something kind of bitchy, and I think it was the Jan Wenner Rolling Stone interview in 1970, right after the breakup, when he hated everybody, being like, "Oh yeah, I played lead guitar on that. When Paul was feeling kindly, he would give me a solo to play." So that's that. You Can't Do That was very much like that, and I Feel Fine were very like riff-based songs that are it's kind of like baked into the song. So I would guess that John played that just because it's so integral to the song. Although George came up with the da, 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 to And I Love Her, so I guess that doesn't immediately prove it. I'm gonna say Bad Boy sounds like him though. So that's also probably high on the list of the most obscure Beatles songs ever. It's a cover of a Chuck Berry song, I think.
That is not correct. Is a cover of
Larry Williams.
There it is. You brought it back.
Yeah. I'm gonna say you can't do that, because that's just, you would have to be playing the riff as you're singing, and John, by his own admission, wasn't coordinated enough to do that kind of stuff. I'm gonna say You Can't Do That.
According to this, it is Bad Boy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll
take that
That
L.
was a real deep cut there, although
Yeah, that's like one of the most obscure. It wasn't even released in America, I don't think. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, it was. Never mind.
Okay, let's see what else we got here.
All right, that was a good question.
I mean, these are insane, and that's the only reason I'm going. I'm going on these. Let's go with another. Dude, I have no idea what this could be. Which Lennon-McCartney original was performed by the Beatles for the BBC, but never recorded for EMI?
I'll Be On My Way.
Son of a bitch. That is correct.
It's a great song. I don't think it was ever recorded, because there were a lot of songs, especially in the early days, pre everything they did being considered art, back when they were just kind of jobbing songwriters, basically. They wrote a lot of songs, especially for other groups that were managed by their manager, Brian Epstein. He had a whole stable of artists, and they would give a lot of songs to acts like Cilla Black, and I think The Foremost was another one. And then Paul McCartney was dating this actress, Jane Asher, and her brother, Peter Asher, was in a group called Peter and Gordon, and they got really famous doing a bunch of Lennon and McCartney songs. A World Without Love. I think I Don't Want to See You Again is another one. In fact, they were so angry that people just thought that they were getting Lennon and McCartney handoffs that Paul wrote him another song, but he used a pseudonym because he was sick of everybody accusing them of just, being a vehicle for Paul's songwriting side gigs. So a song called Woman, he used the name Bernard Webb.
I think
I'm
I
sorry,
did
what
know
was the
that.
question?
This one is insane. I could not even tell you. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Well, don't you have the answer there?
No. I'm doing this
Oh.
live. It's okay. All right. Which Beatle narrowly avoided the 1967 drug raid on Redlands, the home of the Rolling Stones' Keith Richard?
This is embarrassing. I'm actually, I feel like it was either George or Paul. I'm going to say George.
Correct. It was George Harrison.
yeah.
George and Patty Harrison left the party around 8 p.m. just as police officers were outside preparing to launch the raid.
I mean, the whole thing was set up by I think it was the News of the World newspaper, which was this tabloid. I think it was one of the Rupert Murdoch tabloids, I think. It just shut down recently when they were embroiled in some scandal for tapping people's cell phones, I think, like maybe 10 years ago. And yeah, they'd been just tipped off. Like it was a whole hullabaloo. They told the police, and then the police in return, like, told them when they were going to show up, and then they were there with like cameras and stuff. It was a whole thing. Like the British press in this era, probably any era.
Any
especially
era,
then,
they're the worst people in
was
the
like-
world. It's
yeah,
insane. Okay. In December of 1974, where did John Lennon sign the papers to officially dissolve the Beatles partnership?
Disney World.
Correct. According to May Pang, he finally picked up his pen and, in the unlikely backdrop of the Polynesian Village Hotel at Disney World, ended the greatest rock and roll band in history by scrawling
Yeah.
John Lennon at the bottom of the page. I should have
Yeah,
gone
it was,
with which hotel at Disney World.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that I would have. I can see the pictures of it. I mean, the funny thing with that was, the legal hassles of dissolving the Beatles partnership took years. I mean, Paul first made it a legal issue in December of 1970, so it took 4 years, and they got all the paperwork arranged, and John's living in New York. Or at least was mostly based in New York at this time, although it might have been when he was in LA most of the times. But anyway, New York wasn't hard for him to get to.
Right.
And so they went to the Plaza Hotel, and Paul flew in from England, George and Ringo flew in from, I think, England. They came to a place that was very convenient for him. And then he just refused to show up to sign the papers because the numbers weren't right or something. I think actually, this was right around when he was getting back together with Yoko. So yeah, I think he was up there. And yeah, he was just like, couldn't come across the park to sign these papers. And then eventually, during a Christmas trip in December 1974, and he was one of the few times he was with his first son, Julian. He signed them down there with his girlfriend that he had when he was separated from Yoko, May Pang, on hand to bear witness. And I think she took some photos too.
That is correct.
New documentary about her just came out.
Oh. All right. This is crazy. Which U.S. actress recorded a reaction song to John Lennon's Two Virgins album cover? The name of the song is John, You Went Too Far This Time. The pseudonym she recorded it under is Rainbow, minus the W.
This sounds really familiar, and I don't remember. Can you give me the world's smallest hint?
Yes. It was written by that completely unhelpful. One of her most prominent roles is in one of the more famous horror films that you might be aware of.
Janet Leigh?
No. If I give you the film was directed by Brian De Palma.
I don't know.
Mary Elizabeth Sissy Spacek.
Wow. I had no idea.
And
That's
the
a
film
good
I was
one.
referencing was Carrie. Let's take a listen to it. It's called John, You've Gone Too Far this time. Written by J. Marshall and R. Dolka. 45 RPM. Let's see. Includes the lyrics, "Now I gaze in awe before that picture. My mind retires to the place it was before you came. I love the things you showed me up till now, but since that picture, I don't think my love will be the same." A response to the Two Virgins album cover.
Which is a famous Naked album cover.
Yes. I didn't know Sissy Spacek was such a prude.
Everything you asked of me, I did, John. From holding hands to living in a sunlight submarine. And you were something special when you said, John, that you had more disciples than the man who was too clean. John, I love you, but you went too far. This time.
That is f***ing nuts.
Wow.
I feel like I'm about to DM this to you. I feel like I'm on acid now. That sounds like a weird Wes Anderson like needle drop, and or something from like a 60s folk horror movie like Wicker Man or some shit. Good Lord, that's weird. Who knew Sissy Spacek had a musical career?
I didn't know that. Wow.
I'll send you stamp.
Well, how many are we up to? You were trying to actively destroy me in this round.
I very much was. I haven't even been paying attention. It's funny that I'm giving you the harder questions and also expecting you to keep score and keep track of all of the questions. I don't know. Who gives a shit? This is the easy one. You want one more?
Give me one more.
Oh my God, this is insane. Which of these London addresses was not a home to Apple Corps?
I'll get it. Wait, no, don't you know what? Don't even say anything. Don't even say anything. Baker Street was one. Savile Row was one. All right, what are they? There's another one.
27 Ovington Square, 13 Monmouth Street, 95 Wigmore Street.
Monmouth?
I answered it and then they closed the window. I have to go back. It was the first one. Whatever that was.
Overton.
Was it Overton? That was supposedly the answer. Let me double check. Now, having done these, I can go back and get all the answers correct. BeatlesBible.com. Thank you for these Stump the Buff answers. Questions and answers.
That's a great website.
I can't believe you got the I'll Be On My Way one. That's just insane to me.
Oh, it's a great song. And it's a cute little early Lennon McCartney song. It's the only known recording of it.
Okay. Did you tally? I stopped.
because I don't remember what I don't remember what you have.
Yeah, I don't
remember what all you
have. Points are made up and none of this matters. Yes, 27. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was Monmouth. Son of a whore.
Okay, Monmouth is what I said.
Okay. You were wow. All right, so you got that one right. All right. Bring it, bring it back to me.
All right. Name of this category is It's a Numbers Game. Every answer is a number. Question number 1. In The Ring, how long do people have
7
to
days.
live after watching? Okay. All right.
We used to prank people when that movie came out. We would we would just call random numbers and say 7 days. Oh, that was the only like prank calling I ever did as a kid, actually.
That surprises me. I thought you would have had like the soundboards.
No, never got that far. Yeah.
All right, here's one just for you. How many times does Count Orlok blink throughout the entirety of his appearance in Nosferatu?
Oh, God. That's tough. I have no idea. Even or odd?
Odd.
Single digit?
Yes.
7.
Think about if what's the most dramatic thing a person who does blink at some point? What's the most dramatic number?
I mean,
like,
1.
Drama.
Is it 1?
Yes, it's once.
Okay.
He blinks once.
How do they even see that? That film is like grainy as hell. Okay, all right. Yeah.
I think this is right, but I feel like you're gonna be like, there's something that was done after this question was written. Which horror movie franchise has the most sequels?
Is it Children of the Corn?
Not what I'm seeing.
It's either Children of the Corn or Hellraiser. I'll say Hellraiser. Is that correct? Also not correct?
Not what I'm seeing.
Damn, what is it? What are they counting?
I'm seeing Friday the 13th with 12.
Yeah, but that has a remake in it. I'm not sure if that. I guess if we're counting remakes, yeah, then sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So it's
But speaking of Children of the Corn, at what age does the cult consider someone to reach adulthood?
Oh, okay. 19.
I'm seeing 18.
Ah, so close. Son of a bitch.
How many individuals die at the hand of Jason in the first Friday the 13th movie?
Trick question. 0.
Correct.
As Scream indelibly reminded us, Pamela Voorhees is the killer in the first Friday the 13th film. Although it does have one of the more famous horror movie stingers where he pops up at the end and drags the lone survivor, the final girl, into the water. So in theory, that you could maybe soft pedal that as a 1. But I'm going to
We'll also accept that. The only scenario I can think of where how many people did somebody kill, we would accept none or 1.
It's another thing ripped. It's actually it's ripped off from Carrie. It's another reason why that movie's fucking awful, is because they were like, well, we need a stinger. We need to we got to do the Carrie famous Carrie jump scare. Is the nice girl is visiting her grave at the end, and the hand pops out. It's great, one of the classic great jump scares. And Friday the 13th was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's have Jason pop out of the water at the end. Garbage franchise.
Speaking of, well, it's not a franchise, but speaking of garbage movies. What is used to suppress the evil leprechaun's powers in the film Leprechaun?
Oh, well, you can trap him with a 4-leaf clover. Is that
Correct.
the answer? Yeah.
That is the answer. Jennifer Aniston's first movie?
Probably
first big role,
first
I guess.
starring, yeah.
And finally, ending on kind of a downer note, how many people involved with the Exorcist film died during production?
Oh, that's a good question. Because this is one of the films that's considered cursed, right?
Yeah.
Because the set cost fire, if I recall. Other people were injured. There were like making of injuries, but how many people died? Is it on set people or is it?
That I don't know. I probably should have looked at the answer with the story behind them.
Yeah. No, I don't know then. What did they say?
I'm seeing 9.
9?
Yeah.
Do you have a citation? I know.
Okay,
so
let's
2
see.
actors died because there was like a flu. There was like a flu epidemic, and different elderly actors died during production because the thing took almost a year to shoot. But 9?
Okay, so here's I think how they're breaking it down. Fire broke out on the set and led to the death of 3 workers. Second day of filming, the actor who played Father Marin, Max von Sydow, had to withdraw from the set due to the sudden death of his father. Linda Blair's grandfather also died days later. Before the premiere of The Exorcist, actors Jack McGowan and Balisky Aileros
They died of the flu.
died. One of the technicians from The Exorcist was killed, while a night guard was also found on set dead.
I'm seeing 4 in another one of these, but so let's say between 4 and 9.
Yeah, the
I
grandfather,
mean, really.
the grandfather and father thing is maybe.
And they bombed. The IRA bombed. Oh no, that's The Omen that I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah, it's
that's
The
Richard.
Omen.
That's Richard Donner. That's another supposedly cursed production.
And that is the end of It's a Numbers Game.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more Too Much Information in just a moment.
I don't know how many more of these I can pull out. Google very hard Beatles trivia. How well do you know the Beatles music band?
You're the one who told me to pull 75 questions.
Did I?
Yes. You said, how many questions should we have? And you said 75. And I was like, all right, well, I'll pull 55.
I was just making fun of you.
Oh.
I was definitely just pulling that number out of my ass. 75? That's like 4 hours of content.
I know. I was just like, is this rapid fire? Like, I don't really know what this means.
I'm so sorry. You took me seriously. In an infamous newspaper piece, which Beatles song did a journalist praise for its use of the Aeolian cadence?
That's a great question. I know it was like a 64 era song. I want to say The Things We Said Today. I don't think it was. Maybe it was All My Lovin'.
No,
I don't remember. No, it was I Want to Hold Your Hand.
No,
I don't know.
not a second time.
I knew it was like an obscure one like that. Oh,
And the journalist was William Mann of the Times.
yes. When Ringo was asked about this, he said, "Oh, Aeolian cadence sounds like a rare bird."
Yeah, noting that the same chord progression appears at the final movement of Mahler's Das Lied von der Erde. So there you go. What is Ringo's highest note on a Beatles song? A G4.
Probably A Little Help from My Friends. A Little Help from My Friends. That like the end of Little Help from My Friends.
Nope.
What?
This says carry that weight.
I challenge that, but all right.
Well, no, that's a fun one. Okay, hang on. Let's you can
Because I
cut
know that
Let's
they made a
do-
big deal about him. Like he was really nervous when John and Paul made him sing with the help of my friends, and they came down into the studio with him when he tracked the last line of that song, and they were like just off mic, like big upping him, which is adorable. And that's like a hard note to hit, like for anybody. Also, I mean, I'm not even 100% sure he's in that chorus. I guess he is.
Yeah, I mean we're out of I'm kind of tempted to open my copy of the Jeff Emmerich book and just start grilling you on studio minutia, which I'm sure you know.
I'm not good with tech stuff.
Well, should we do gear?
Try to do gear, yeah.
Yeah. So the Beatles are famously associated with Gretsch, Hofner, Rickenbacker, but which 70s weird 12-string acoustic can be seen in the movie Help and heard on You've Got to Hide Your Love Away?
I have one, actually. My dad, it was one of his early guitars in the 60s. I don't think it was related to the fact that the Beatles played it. I think it's a Framus.
That's correct. The Framus Hootenanny model.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. Which Gibson model was given to Bob Dylan by George Harrison? One of the more famous models.
I imagine it was an acoustic because George
correct.
gave Hummingbird?
No, the Gibson J200.
Oh, okay.
That's a tough one. Doesn't have a fun name. Which George Harrison Gretsch model can be seen on the cover of the album Club 9?
Duo Jet.
Correct.
Yeah, that was his first like nice, because that's a late era solo album. I think it's from '87. That's one of the ones that has Got My Mind Set on You. Was really one of his last big hit songs. And yeah, he was saying how like he always treasured it because it was his first. English guitars in that era weren't great, and that was his first high quality American guitar, and he always remembered going to get it one night with some enormous amount of cash in his pockets, and he was terrified he was going to get mugged. So yeah, it's cute that he they all for the most part held on to their instruments, which I think is the sign of a
I was just about to say,
well,
I'm sorry you just said that, because I was going to say George Harrison was famed for giving away his instruments.
Well, yeah, as gifts to his like most treasured friends.
Yes. And so one of the rarer models of Gibson electric guitar that George is associated with is a Gibson SG, which it can be seen playing in the promotional videos for Paperback Writer, Rain, and the filming of the recording session to Hey Bulldog. What became of that guitar?
Oh, wow.
Who was it given to? Closely associated Beatles act.
Wow. I don't know if I remember. I don't know.
Pete Ham of
for
Badfinger. Yep.
Yes. Oh, that makes sense.
I
George produced Day After Day. Or no, maybe it was No Matter What. One of the big Badfinger songs. Yeah, Day After Day.
Okay. Paul McCartney is most famously associated with the Hofner violin bass as well as the Rickenbacker Model 4001. Which recording sessions did he deviate from those using a Fender jazz bass?
It was late era. I want to say it was like Come Together. You can be album or song?
Albums.
Abbey Road.
Correct.
And I think a little bit of the White Album.
Correct. According to Quora.
I like how you've dumped all of your questions to try to get harder ones to foil me.
Yeah, I sure did. Well, you were just blowing me out of the water earlier. Okay. Which organ, electric organ, is popularly associated with the early Beatles?
I don't know if it's popularly associated with, but they used a Vox Continental.
Correct.
On I'm Down.
Yep.
Which
Correct.
then the Doors, Ray Manzarek, I think because of the Beatles connection, got for all those early Doors records, like all the Light My Fire and stuff like that.
I don't even want to do drums. Who gives a shit about drums? Please name the songs on which the Moog... Is it Moog or Moog? I never actually knew.
I never knew either.
It's Moog. Yeah, I always thought
Is it
so.
Moog? Okay.
Yeah. Which Abbey Road tracks are the Moog synthesizer featured on?
Maxwell's Silver Hammer and Because.
Correct.
And I don't know. I think some of the static on I Want You, She's So Heavy.
Correct.
I thought that was it. Is there more?
Here Comes the Sun.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Everyone knows that the non-core 4 Beatles keyboards parts were played by George Martin, Nicky Hopkins, which I didn't actually know, Billy Preston, obviously, another person popularly credited as being one of the 5th Beatle. I guess Mal Evans played keys on something.
I think the theory was when they did the ending chord to A Day in the Life.
Oh, right. He was one of the people who had
down
yes,
an E chord, yeah.
And last guy on the White Album also played with Pink Floyd or mixed.
Alan Parsons?
Nope. And Badfinger. And the Sex Pistols. Not on keys, just recording.
I don't know.
Chris Thomas.
What did he play on?
Harpsichord on Piggies. Mellotron on Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill. Piano on Long, 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 and Savoy Truffle.
I'm looking that up. Because he was a producer.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'll be damned. I did know that. Wow.
Please name the candies name dropped in Savoy Truffle.
There's too many.
In alphabetical order. No, okay.
Coconut fudge, cream tangerine.
No, that doesn't count. You're getting them. You're getting them, you son of a bitch. I don't want to do mics. That's boring. Which rock and roll phrases appear on George Harrison's hand-painted 1961 Fender Stratocaster?
Go Cat Go.
Correct.
And Bebop-A-Lula.
Correct. Wow. As well as what looks like an ohm, because of course, and a smiley face. That is a hideous guitar. All right, let's wrap it up.
Okay. I will ask you, let's see, your next category, I will not ask you all of them. I call it Rockin' in the Real World because I was running out of ways to make them work. These are questions about No, I'm not going to explain. What band?
You haven't earned that.
This, no, you haven't earned an explanation for this category. What band helped Ridley Scott with lighting for Alien while they were rehearsing a stage show next door to the studio?
Pink Floyd.
No.
Oh, Genesis?
Second choice.
It's
Third
gotta
choice.
be. Was it Genesis?
No.
Oh, I don't know. That's wild.
The Who.
Really? Okay.
Apparently.
That's so funny. I had no idea. Was it was he at Elstree?
I think it must have been, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where they recorded, maybe I'm wrong, a lot of the live concert stuff for the Kids Are All Right.
Yeah, I was about to say they must have been doing that at that time. Yeah. Where Pete Townsend punches a hole in a tambourine.
Of all the film adaptations that have been made from Stephen King's work, which is the only one that he directed himself?
Oh, Maximum Overdrive.
Nice.
A film he does not remember making.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was that pre-intervention, them taking his waste paper basket and dumping it on the floor in front of him and finding the detritus of his drug addiction and
alcohol
that was a
addiction?
wake-up
Yeah.
call? Yeah.
It's so funny. The trailer for that one is like, it's just like a shot of, it's like him. It's like Stephen King. And he's like, a lot of people have directed adaptations of my films, but they've gotten them all wrong. Or like something like that. That's why I'm doing this one. It's just so, I'm like, oh, buddy, good thing you got help.
Which horror-adjacent movie was based on an unproduced script for The X-Files?
Ooh.
It's not really well, it's kind of horror.
Great question. Great question. What year?
Late 90s.
Event Horizon?
Or 2000, sorry.
Oh, no. So it wouldn't have been around Event Horizon. That was 2000s horror movies. Part of a franchise?
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know. Yes.
Final Destination.
Yes.
Classics. Also starring Devon Sawa. Man, Devon Sawa.
Oh, yeah. Okay, two more to end on.
Okay.
Name 3 horror movies inspired by the serial killer Ed Gein.
Oh, well, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs.
Boom. What was he known for?
Do you really want me to do this?
Okay, moving on. Finally. What future Scream Queen begged her mother to let her audition for The Exorcist, but was unsuccessful?
Ooh, future Scream Queen.
Exorcist was, what, 73, 74?
Yeah, so Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Janet Leigh was in Psycho.
Correct. And they actually they share the screen in Halloween H2O. And I believe Janet Leigh is playing, actually they share the screen in 2 films.
Oh yeah, there's another one too.
It's The Fog. This is gonna stump me. I know. Yes, Janet Leigh is in The Fog, and Jamie Lee Curtis is playing the lead, and one of them, when she drives off, they play the stinger. They play like the music from Psycho, and I think she drives off in the car from the film. But that might be H2O. Yes, it's in H2O when she drives off in the car, the 57 Ford Classic.
Which is the car that Norman Bates drove into the lake or the mud or whatever it was after he kills her in Psycho.
Wow. Well met, sir. Hail fellow.
I think you still owe me a round.
Son of a bitch, do I? Okay, all right.
We're not doing points, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. No. Let me okay, so does that even us up?
That'll even us up.
Okay. So we're gonna call this category something. No, I'm just on their Wikipedia page. Okay, we're gonna go into solo territory, solo Beatles territory. What is the name of the traveling Wilbury's father?
Oh wow, I don't know.
Charles Truscott Wilbury. Redemption. What were George Harrison's pseudonyms in the traveling Wilburys?
Lucky? Lefty? Lucky?
No.
Lefty?
Nelson,
No. Oh,
and
yeah.
Spike.
Right. Yeah, the Wilburys, I'm not really up on.
I didn't think you would be.
Yeah.
Uh,
Classic example of the sum not equaling the total of its parts.
Oh God, not even close. I didn't know this. Did you know Hollywood Vampires was a drinking club that Alice Cooper formed? I had no idea that
Alice Cooper, Mickey Dolenz,
Yeah.
Keith Moon, Harry Nilsson, John Lennon.
Ringo. I had no idea that shitty band was where that named after. Okay, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Which what song did Elton John write for Ringo? Elton and Bernie
I have no idea.
on the 1974 album Goodnight Vienna.
I don't know.
Snookeroo.
Oh.
Anything?
Oof.
No?
Oh. I think Beatles 4, or no, sorry, Ringo 4, I think, was famous for being like the closest thing to a Beatle reunion that ever happened because all the Beatles appeared on it. Because everybody loves Ringo.
Mhm. They do.
It's so cute. I mean, even like in some of the last recordings that John made, you hear him run through songs like, I think Nobody Told Me was one, and Grow Old With Me, I think, was supposed to be another, where he would say, oh, this one's going to be great for Ringo. Like, even years later,
Aw.
he was still, like, in the back of his mind, earmarking stuff for his old friend.
Oh, here's a great one. Producer Jack Douglas brought in members of Cheap Trick
Mhm.
to play on which John Lennon solo album or solo songs?
Songs. Oh, wow. I'm losing you.
Correct.
Um,
And well, this is a trick question because the other one is a Yoko Ono song.
yeah. Yeah, it was for Double Fantasies right before he died.
The Yoko Ono song is I'm Moving On.
There's an interesting thing about Jack Douglas, not to get close to closing out the show on a
Uh-oh.
bummer note. Told a story about how either the night he died or like shortly before John died, he was in the studio in the last couple on the nights before he died. He said that John told me something that was so upsetting, and it was in the studio and the mics were rolling. It was just the two of us. And it was like, it was something that just shook me to my core and was deeply, deeply upsetting. And in the wake of his death, I erased the tapes, and I won't speak about what it was that he told me ever.
Really?
And there's been a lot of speculation. I mean, John was very thin by the end of his life, and there's a lot of people who've, some people are like, oh yeah, he was just on macrobiotic diets and the hippie stuff, but some people thought he maybe had cancer, or some people thought he was in the depths of some kind of drug addiction. So some people theorize that maybe he confided something about his health to him. But yeah, no one knows. That's my main thought about Jack Douglas.
Grim. Which iconic UK goth-ish rock band collaborated with Paul McCartney in the 90s?
Goth rock band.
Post-punk, goth rock. One member from this band under a pseudonym that
Youth, the Fireman?
correct, Martin Glover of Killing Joke.
Yes. That's actually, if you were to ask me my favorite Paul McCartney album of the 21st century, the album that he had from 2008 called Electric Arguments, which he released under the name The Fireman, is pretty great. It's the most raw and the most, like, you can tell he's having fun that I've heard him on record since like Ram era. He's really, because I think the idea behind the album was, in a very Paul way, we're going to come into the studio every day and write and record a song, not spend more than a day on it. We're going to come in with nothing and make it up and then go. And that was the result, which is why I think it sounds so fresh. And the opening track is called Nothing Too Much, Just Out of Sight. And that was a phrase that a London percussionist from Nigeria, I believe, I'm embarrassed that I don't remember his name, I'm sorry, used to say in the 60s. And this was the same guy that used to say, oblada, life goes on.
Wow.
And that's what Paul borrowed it from. And then Paul cut him a check after that song came out. I can't remember his name. I feel bad. But that was another phrase from that guy. Nothing too much, just out of sight.
Wow.
Which is a good phrase.
It is. Well, in that spirit, I gentlemanly concede you the victor of Beatles versus Blood. You are truly
that was a tie.
You
That
are
was a
truly
tie.
nothing too far and out of sight. Oobla dee, oobla da. Trivia goes on. I don't know. If folks like this, well, maybe we'll do another one like this some other time. I believe the other topics.
This is fun.
The other topics floated were jazz and for me and what was yours?
Titanic.
Titanic.
Titanic makes sense for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you with jazz. I feel. What else could we conceivably do for you?
Maybe punk rock.
What do you like? Punk rock.
Yeah.
Punk rock works.
Yeah. Swamp Thing. Alan Moore's 1980s run on the Swamp Thing.
Guitar pedals.
Wolverine. Yeah. There's some comics in there. Synths. I'm just looking around my house.
Crows.
Different, Corvids, members of the Corvid family. Yeah. Well, folks, thank you for listening. This has been Too Much Information's first ever installment of Stump the Buff. I'm Alex Heigl.
And I'm Jordan Runtagh. We'll catch you next time.
Too Much Information was a production of iHeart Radio.
The show's executive producers are Noel Brown and Jordan Runtagh.
The show's supervising producer is Michael Alder June.
The show was researched, written, and hosted by Jordan Runtagh and Alex Heigl.
With original music by Seth Applebaum and the Ghost Funk Orchestra.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.
For more podcasts on iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.